The call came at 2:14 a.m. Her voice was broken, raw panic buried under the kind of sobs only terror can carve. "Daddy, he locked me in the basement again." The silence that followed wasn't hesitation, it was calculation. 18 years in the CIA had trained me to breathe between decisions. In those spaces, people either survive or disappear. My daughter's breathing was shallow, uneven. She was whispering. I could hear footsteps upstairs, deliberate, pacing. The senators. My ex-wife's new husband. The judge had called him a pillar of the community. I'd called him a liability. She whispered again. "He said I talk too much." That was all I needed. I didn't raise my voice, didn't comfort her. I simply said, "I hear you." Then I hung up and started making calls. One to Virginia, one to Berlin, one to someone who owed me for what happened in Caracas 2008. No shouting, no threats. Just the sound of quiet men waking up to old debts being collected. By 3:46 a.m., a team had arrived at the senator's estate. By 4:12, the house was empty. By dawn, the headlines were calling it a possible abduction. I called it balance. A week earlier, I'd stood in a courtroom, hands folded, suit pressed, heart ironed flat. The judge barely looked at me. He laughed when I said I'd served my country. "A soldier?" he said, shaking his head. "Your wife's new husband is a senator. He can offer stability, full custody to her." The courtroom chuckled politely, the kind of laughter that makes power feel untouchable. My ex-wife smiled without moving her lips. She'd always been good at pretending innocence. Manipulation disguised as virtue. She believed the right man beside her could erase everything that came before. They thought they'd buried me under the word custody. They didn't understand. Men like me don't lose custody. We simply reposition assets. I walked out of that courtroom already planning. I knew what kind of man the senator was before she did. Control freak, narcissist, hidden violence behind public charm. I'd met dozens like him. Shaking hands with devils in suits is a professional hazard. So when the judge's gavel fell, I didn't hear defeat. I heard permission. 3 nights later, my daughter's friend sent me a text. A blurry photo, a bruise on her arm. She said my ex told her not to exaggerate things, said discipline builds character. That phrase, "discipline builds character," had once been the senator's campaign slogan. I began watching from a distance, quietly. The house, the security routines, the staff schedules. It was almost nostalgic, like running surveillance on foreign soil again, except this time, the enemy was domestic. Publicly, I was calm, attending mandatory counseling sessions, smiling for custody review hearings, playing the obedient father who accepted his place. Privately, I was building a file. Every bruise, every locked door, every minute she wasn't accounted for. Then came the call. The basement, the whisper, the sound of her breath against the phone, the kind of sound that wakes old instincts you thought you'd buried. The senator woke up in a windowless room 12 hours later. No lights, no clocks, just sound. Recordings of his own voice, his speeches, his promises, his lies. We didn't touch him. We didn't need to. Silence does more damage than pain ever could. When the photos arrived at the judge's office, they came with a single note. "You gave her to a predator." The judge's hand shook as he read the file attached. Every classified operation I'd ever been a part of. The header said, "Level 5 clearance required." It was an old file, technically erased. But erasure is an illusion, one I designed. The next day, the judge called an emergency hearing. My ex-wife sat across from me, pale, trembling. She didn't ask where her husband was. She already knew not to. Custody reversed, full parental rights restored, immediate removal of the child from maternal care. The senator's disappearance was declared national security sensitive. The case sealed. No charges, no questions. My ex tried to reach me after the hearing. "You can't just make someone vanish," she whispered, voice cracking. I looked at her not as a man, but as an analyst dissecting a file. "You volunteered for this," I said. "You just didn't read the terms." Her eyes widened, realization dawning too late that I'd never stopped being who I was. My daughter sleeps peacefully now. No locks, no fear. I sit outside her door sometimes, not because I worry, but because I listen. Silence means safety. I learned that in war zones. The news still talks about the senator's legacy, about his tragic disappearance. They'll never know the truth. They don't need to. Justice isn't loud. It's methodical, precise, surgical. 18 years taught me one unshakable lesson. If you live long enough in the dark, you stop fearing it. You become it. And sometimes, that's the only way to protect what's left of the light.